Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on the Daily Debate. I'm still joined over the phone with my guests who are discussing a very important topic, and it's the topic of every hour and of every day in the construction and the development of Egypt, because we have something new happening every day and plans that are being not just put on paper but also achieved, and you can actually see them with your own eyes. Dr. Ali Massoud, Professor of Economy, he's the Dean of Political Science and Economy Department at Beni Suef University, if I've got that title correct. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor. Dr. Ali Massoud, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor, on the Daily Debate this time.
Thank you.
As you've seen, we've been talking more about the construction work and the development process that has been happening in Egypt. And I would really like to ask academics this question, because without research and proper study, proper outlining, things might not actually end up to be as perfect as they are. So here I would want to talk to you more about the importance of planning and researching and administrating to ensure that you take into consideration a number of factors when you want to conduct a certain project, especially if it's a mega project. There's the political aspect, the economic aspect, and then there's also the social and cultural aspect of it all. How do you view that from an academic perspective in this regard?
Okay, first of all, let us start by saying that there is a huge change in the strategic direction of the Egyptian state toward the development projects. Egypt now actually has a strategic plan to implement, which is the Sustainable Development Plan, the Vision of 2030. But in order to achieve this plan, Egypt started by very well detailed and organized with very specific tasks for all ministers and for all government agencies to implement it. Mm-hmm. We started by a huge amount of our huge number of projects, what we call it national projects. The national projects have played a very important role in this, because it completely was a tool to implement the inclusive growth model that Egypt followed during the last few years. The national projects cover all sectors in all regions, which makes Egypt now concentrating in some regions that used to be not in the priority of the Egyptian state, like Upper Egypt and Sinai. Mm-hmm. Egypt also has done lots of things to solve problems that it has relationship with encouraging the investments and foreign direct investments, like electricity problem and road problem, infrastructure problem. Mm-hmm. Also, Egypt has a lot also of national projects to increase the value added, or to increase the value added of its natural resource. As we see, lots of projects in oil and gas and even other natural resources that we used to not optimally use. So this is why we can say that Egypt has a strategic vision to move from being a developing country into emerging country now. Mm-hmm. And we have this vision in order to move from being emerging countries to develop the country with advanced economy from 10 to 15 years in the future. Mm-hmm. This will not be happen without a clear political will from the political leadership in Egypt, and it cannot be happen also if we don't have government that has all capacity to implement this vision. So now we have the political will, we have the government that it has the capacity, and we have the awareness of the Egyptian people, and to what extent actually they understand what is really going on all issues and all fields.
Yes. Well, final question before I wrap up, unfortunately, because our time is almost up. Dr. Ali, again, when you mention strategies, there are certain factors and criteria that are required. But with Egypt facing certain challenges and with the strict austerity measures or the reform program, and I'm talking about the economic reform program, you're talking about three main criteria and a sort of a very difficult equation that you're trying to balance here. There's the resources, the cost, okay, and the time. And that was one of the magical equation or recipes that made it very successful here in Egypt to implement these projects, not just at the highest standards with using the maximum resources, but also with the lowest cost and the less time possible. Briefly, please tell us about that as well.
Yes, this is a very important and very interesting point. Why? Because when you talk about timing, it is very important. Why? Because Egypt now is moving ahead so quickly. Why? Because, as you know, in the region faces lots of turbulence during the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So Egypt, in order to save its position, in order to keep its economic growth, it has to compete with other countries in the region. So in terms of economic performance, so it can actually save its welfare in the future. For this reason, actually, we had all our projects. We are keening so much to implement this in very short time as we can.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ali Massoud, Professor of Economy at Dean of Political Science and Economy Department at Beni Suef University. Thank you for joining us. We have a chance for one more phone call right after this very short break.